Hi guys, it's me, Radiger, author of every SCP except for the one in this video. Welcome back to another episode of SCP Analysis, a very nerdy and boring show where I, creator of the SCP Wiki Don't Fact Check That, analyze how an SCP works as a piece of writing, instead of just telling you what happens in it. As my subscribers already know because I tell them in advance, today we are covering SCP-4183, Automatic Containment Procedures, by Tanhoney, famed author of SCP-863, Patchwork Crabs. SCP-4183 also happens to be my personal favorite SCP that I have ever read so far. SCP-4183 tells the story of 3 containment drone robots in a time after the extinction of humanity, as they attempt to carry out their unnecessary task of containing a vase that kills humans and only humans. The drones add to the file logs of their maintenance routines, including complications with the deterioration of the site caused by the absence of humans. Also, poetry. When a bear gets into the building, the drones attempt to fight it off, resulting in one of them being damaged and ultimately breaking. Another drone, frustrated with the lack of direction from their head researcher's corpse, breaks the vase, and the 2 remaining drones set out into the forest to find their own purpose. The first time I read it, I cried. Let's talk about why. This is what you see when you open the page. It's seemingly very short, and more than that, there's barely anything going on at all. Old school formatting, safe class, picture of vase. The majority of the words are in the conprox, so let's talk about those. Containment procedures usually contain the hook of the story and are often loaded with foreshadow. We start off with this banger sentence about the impending extinction of humanity following the events of the hyperlinked Event Indigo, where we find out this thing is contained by robots because all the humans will soon be dead. Impending extinction is an evocative phrase with which to kick off an article. We have relatively few SCPs that feature absolutely no humans at all. So how does that work? We will find out. The next paragraph follows a more expected set of ideas with instructions about keeping the object under lock and key, no visual observation, etc. We get a few details about how the drones factor into containment, and then we have this short paragraph leading into our description, the last idea the conprox leave us with. Changes to the procedure must be approved by Dr. Lestai, a command that cannot be bypassed under any circumstances. But we know from the very beginning that humanity is either dying out or has already died out by the time we're reading this, so we know that this command is going to be important later, when the absence of humans calls it into question. That's foreshadowing, baby! It's a setup for a later payoff that we will get to eventually. And then our description, which at first blush is really boring. It's a thing that kills people. It's a pot that sucks out your blood. This footnote here mentions that it only kills humans, no other animal. And we, the reader, know that all of this might be moot if there are no humans left to protect. If humanity goes extinct, then this is just a pot. And that's the end. That's the end of the article. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Wait. What's this? This is called a collapsible. It's a technique that SCP authors use to varying degrees of success. I used to do this a lot in my earlier writing, but I've come to the conclusion that it's usually not necessary and can sometimes obstruct the reading experience with extra clicks that don't actually add much more to the story. But for articles like this, it works wonderfully. How? Well, this looks like your average bad Series 1 article, but putting the rest of the story in a collapsible gives the feeling that it's something that you aren't necessarily supposed to see. It creates a sense of exploration, separating this part of the story from the first part better than something like a dividing line would. It's like the real story is hidden from us and we have to peek through this window to get to it. So let's peek through that window. This is an excellent reveal. The description was boring, dry, and rote. This is unusual on a number of levels. It's titled using a heading 1, which is rarely seen in SCP articles themselves. It's immediately a break in the clinical tone and a violation of the typical detached voice of a document. The following poem is comedically nonsensical, and readers who are keyed in will quickly recognize it as being written by one of the drones. They're the only things still here, right? This is confirmed when it's acknowledged by drones A and C. This little section is efficient and quick establishment of the personalities of these robots. Drone A is serious, Drone B is artistic, and Drone C is friendly. We also immediately understand that they have some level of autonomy, judging by the fact that one has produced art and another has appreciated it. The next consensus log gives us a few more useful things. We get some explanation on how exactly we are getting the dialogue, and some more info about the world around them. We know very clearly that these 3 are much more than simple mindless robots. They're funny and endearing, and their conversations are very enjoyable to read. Tanhoney does a great job of balancing personality with the rigidity of machines. It's a lot of fun to see how these 3 drones think. Their dialogue manages to be both completely void of emotion and also so full of it. Curiosity from B, exasperation from A. They're incredibly charming. In the next section, we get a payoff from the main setup in the conprox. The drones have to make a change. but they can't do so without Dr. Lestai's approval. Unfortunately, we can tell immediately that old Dr. Lestai is dead by his own hand. This raises the tension of the story because the drones have to figure out how to reckon with this new problem. It gives us a bunch of new questions to hold in our mind as readers. Will the drones figure out how to circumvent the rule? Will they achieve a way to ignore the rule entirely and take matters into their own grasping arms? Will something happen now that there's a hole in the wall? We consider these as we keep reading. There's also some great comedy here, as the log is transcribed seemingly from the drone's perspective, and they don't really seem to have a complete grasp on death. In the next log, the drones discuss looking at bugs and the sun, and make observations about both. We see more of their personalities, with Drone A expressing frustration with Dr. Lestai's silence, and vexation with Drone B and C's behavior, as they whimsically describe the world from their robot point of view. At the end here, Tanhony employs a dialogue strategy that is one of my personal favorites, which is using spoken lines to imply an action that's being taken without actually describing it. It's very cute to imagine Drone B driving in circles while it says this. In the last video on 5798, we talked about the blending of tones to create horror. As horror and comedy are sisters, the same is true for comedy. The humor of this next action scene comes from the contrast between the way the text is written and what the audience knows is really going on. This sentence says, "Upon spotting the intruder, Drone B turns and strategically withdraws." This is written with much gravity, but we can picture the Looney Tunes animation as Drone B rounds the corner, sees the bear, and then flees for its life on its little wheels. The same comedic principles are used in the next dialogue section, when the drones are discussing what to do about the bear. To the audience, there's no threat here. The bear can't be hurt by the vase. There are no humans to protect, and bears are typically not interested in eating robots. But to the drones, this is the nightmare scenario. This is DEFCON 1. I mean, fuck. They whipped out the legal threats and everything. This is some serious life or death shit. I love the detail of how Drone A's thinking is transcribed. Drone A is clearly meant to be the smart one of the group, but reading this, I can practically hear the dial-up internet grinding noise as it rubs its two little brain cells together. And then, what's this? Drone A has an independent thought. The robots are getting character development. Drone A is building its autonomy, thinking its way around its programming. This is followed with a silly slapstick action sequence involving stacking cans of Spam on top of Drone B, using it to lure the bear to an electric barrier and electrocuting it to death. But Drone B is damaged in the fight, critically damaged. And suddenly, the mood of the story takes a turn. Drone A rushes into Dr. Lestai's office, demanding his help in repairing the damage to Drone B. Dr. Lestai doesn't respond because he's dead. Drone A, without using any emotional language, displays palpable urgency and distress. In the next section, it returns to the room to make the declaration, "You are false." Considering the weight of the words true and false when used in coding language, we can conclude that this is a huge moment for Drone A. It has lost its faith in its directive and its director. It's an expression of anger and disappointment and helplessness. It's an existential crisis. Hey, you guys remember all that silly stuff about oranges in the beginning? Drone A returns to Drone B to comfort it. Drone C is looking for repair supplies and is too far away to say goodbye, despite being closer friends with B than A ever was. This scene reads exactly like every movie scene where one character is bleeding out in the arms of another, but it manages to do so with the flat, simple vernacular of a pair of little robots. Oranges are brought back several times, as a symbol of the drone's autonomy and independent spirit. There's a callback to the beginning when Drone A scolds Drone B for writing its poem into the file. Drone A recites Drone B's poem and tells Drone B that it thinks the poem was very good, marking Drone A's development into an independent and creative thinker like B and C. And then Drone B falls silent, as Drone A repeatedly begs it to respond. Respond. Please respond. Another action sequence. The clause about Drone A causing superficial damage to itself harkens back to Drone B's death. Drone A breaks the anomaly. The final exchange between A and C contains the article's single explicit mention of an emotion. Drone C is very frightened, but Drone A, at the end of its arc, encourages Drone C to abandon their directives and leave the site to explore the world beyond while they still can. The article is bookended with another poem. Unlike Drone B's poem, this poem is a lot more prosaic. It still isn't really a poem, but a series of observations and speculations. Until the last sentence, which is very poetic indeed. As my only purpose is containment, I am not equipped to judge such things. But it seems to me that this world must be very beautiful. And we, the audience, know that Drone A is perfectly equipped to judge such things, because it already has. and it has deemed them beautiful. SCP-4183 is a simple story about autonomy, self-determination, and mortality. Drone A realizes through the death of Drone B that their assigned purpose is meaningless and futile, and that the real value of life is enjoyment and appreciation of it, not dedication to service of some superior that does not care about you. Dr. Lestai is unresponsive. We will not find materials for repair. The world must be very beautiful. God is dead. Death is coming. The world is very beautiful. We will go on patrol now. From its simple but relatable characters to its well-written dialogue, its use of contrast, symbols, callbacks, and symmetry. But for this video, I'm going to focus on its adherence to a satisfying 3-act structure. The 3-act structure is the most familiar story structure in Western storytelling. Most feature films that you have ever seen have a 3-act structure. In Act 1, the protagonist leaves the status quo and embarks on an adventure. In Act 2, problems are solved and the stakes get higher until a big climactic moment in Act 3, followed by falling action as the protagonist settles back into a new world or a new state of being. For SCP-4183, here are our events. Act 1. We introduce the world, the characters, and their personalities. The end of Act 1 happens when the hole breaks in the wall, and Dr. Lestai will not respond. Act 2 is spent deliberating on what to do about the hole. The midpoint of the story, when the stakes increase and we start driving toward the climax, happens when the bear comes in. Act 3 is the climax when the drones attack the bear and Drone B is killed. The following action is Drone A's attempt to save Drone B, followed by A and C's decision to leave the site. There are many other story structures, like the 5-act or the 2-act, but the 3 is the most common in Western media, which makes it really satisfying when done right, but really boring when done wrong. It's important to remember that repetition and predictability are tools, and just because a story's plot beats might be predictable doesn't mean they aren't still satisfying. From the outset, we want to see the drones figure out how to get past their programming. So even though we know it's eventually going to happen, it's still enjoyable because we were excited for it to happen. You've seen this same story dozens of times. You've seen dozens of scenes where a character dies in the arms of another. You'll see dozens more. There's value in treading well-beaten ground because it's often well-worn because it works. After all, there's not really any such thing as a truly original story. Everything is just a different version of something else. But we like repetition. We like patterns. When you're writing your own SCPs, don't feel like you're cheating by adhering to a simpler plot outline. Simple isn't always bad, and complex isn't always good. You can write a wonderful, impactful story that has the same emotional beats as hundreds of others, and thinking about your story in terms of an act structure can help you figure out your pacing and what to do next. If you want to learn more about this in more nuanced terms, I really highly recommend the book The Anatomy of Story by John Truby. It breaks down the familiar Western plot structure with a lot of detail. Also, damn, I should recommend books more often. I read a lot of books about writing. Anyways, thanks for watching my video. I was kind of surprised at the reception of my last one because I know YouTube doesn't love to promote stuff like literary analysis, but enough of you seemed to really like it that I think I'll make more. I like talking about things I like a lot more than talking about things I don't. Have you read a good tearjerker SCP recently? Tell me in the comments. Bonus points if it's not the dragon one. Also subscribe because I'm going to announce in advance what I'm covering next so that everyone can read it beforehand, like a book club. And my Patreon patrons get to watch my videos early. So consider supporting me on Patreon if you want me to keep doing this. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye.